Ladies and gentlemen, it is the last card of the year, UFC Tampa, and we are going to go over this entire card, but really quick, because it's the last card of the year, that means it's New Year's resolution time, and I would like to hear yours. So drop your New Year's resolution down in the comments below, because this time of year, it's good to have somebody hold you accountable. Maybe I'll even bug you at the end of the next year and see if you stuck to it. If you'd like to hear my New Year's resolution, stick around to the end of the video. In fact, you should probably do that anyway, otherwise you might miss some breakdowns. In other news, since this is the last card of the year, next week, so the Wednesday after this card, Kendra and I will be doing another live stream. Now, if you remember, if you haven't seen it, way back when, at the beginning of this year, might have been the last bit of last year, we did a video, the expert, me, which I use that term pretty loosely, but the expert versus the casual being Kendra, who watches the pay-per-views with me and some fight nights. Most fight nights she'll catch a bit, but not always the whole thing. But yeah, so she's the casual, right? She's a little more than your average casual because she doesn't just tune in for like a McGregor card. But point being, she's the casual in this situation. We went through, gave all our picks for who's going to be the champion at the end of the year. We had a little wager on the line, and we're going to go over those picks together, and we're going to decide who won based on that, and here we are. So you'll get to see that. It'll be fun. We got some pretty cool holiday-themed costumes we're going to be wearing. You guys are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a fun time, and it'll give you something to do during a week where we don't have fights coming up. So, guys, let me know if you're going to tune into that in the live stream Wednesday after this card, and let's get to these picks, huh? Strawweights next, where Piera Rodriguez, 3-2 in her last 5. She takes on Joseine Knutsson, who is 5-0 in her last 5. She's 8-0 overall, so that makes sense. For Knutsson, she's a solid striker with good forward pressure, good combinations that she often ends with a kick. In particular, that's typically a leg kick. She likes to throw her hands and then finish out with that leg kick. A lot of times, hook leg kick, it's just an easy one to go to for her. But yeah, so combinations, kickboxing style, makes sense. Tight guard, keeps it up here, does a really good job there. I do really like the lead leg kicks. Now, what I mean by lead leg kicks, not kicking her opponent's lead leg, but kicks off of her lead leg. She has a very fast head kick off the lead leg without having to switch. A lot of people have to switch to kick from that lead leg. She does not. I like that. She also has a good front kick there, keeps her opponents at range, controls the distance, and lets her manage when that distance is close. One thing I don't like, and I point this out a lot, is her hooks when she gets in the pocket are just kind of like that. It's very strange. I don't like them at all. That looks weird. I don't know why she does them. She's such a clean striker, and then she'll do those. Doesn't make any sense. But she doesn't do them super often. But if it happens, you'll know what I'm talking about. And you'll say, oh, 138 MMA mentioned that. Yeah. Anyway, good grappling as well. This is something she's been developing. She's got pretty good cage push. That was there before. The knees and elbows up against the cage, kind of dirty boxing it sort of thing. But the top pressure and just grinding ability, that's something she's developed with their MMA game, because obviously she comes from more of a traditional striking style rather than mixing of her martial arts. So she's done good there. On the other side, Piera Rodriguez, she's a decent striker as well. Her boxing combinations are really good. Okay, not really good, but really good, right? They're really good. They're not really good, if you get what I'm saying. But either way, good boxing combinations, pretty aggressive on the feet, very good volume. I like that. But the problem is, as the fight goes, those hands just keep getting lower and lower. And then she becomes easier and easier to hit. She'll start out okay. Hands will be high enough, but they just keep getting lower as the fight goes on. And I think that's going to cost her a bit here. Decent grappling as well. She's got really good takedowns and pretty darn good takedown defense. But the problem is she has a really hard time holding down her opponents, which keeps these two things here, these big deficiencies she has, keeps her from being good in those categories, because she'll just do things right and then she doesn't finish out the cycle. You know what I mean? Like, it's really good to be aggressive and have good volume and good combinations, but if your hands just keep getting lower as the fight goes on, you start getting hit a lot, and it makes your striking look poor because you're just getting hit a lot. And then same thing with the grappling. Like, she's got these takedowns, and she stuffs takedowns well, and she does a really good job there, but she has a hard time holding her opponents down. And that's a problem. So ultimately for me, I think Knutsson's the better fighter. I think she's going to win this fight more often than not and maintain that undefeated streak, and she'll go to 9-0. But I understand if anybody's like, you know what, I got to play the underdog here. The line's too wide. I get that. Piera Rodriguez is dangerous, and I could see her going in there and getting something done early, making a mess of things and kind of winning some early rounds. But I'm taking Knutsson. Let me know what you think. Bantamweight, it's the return of Davey Grant taking on Ramon Taveras. Now, Taveras is 4-1 in his last 5, 2-3 for Grant. Now, the 4-1 for Taveras, no matter what you think of the two Series City fights, because both of those had some controversy, he ended up at 4-1. It is what it is. When we look at his skill set, dude's a solid striker with very fast hands, and he has an absolute laser of a cross. He often uses this cross as a good counter to leg kicks. His opponent will throw a leg kick. He will snap that laser of a cross right out, try to hit him in the face before that kick can really get itself going, or he'll eat the kick as he throws the cross and just hope that his punch is going to do more than your kick. He does counter well while moving forward, which is very important. And he'll often use a body kick once his opponents start thinking about boxing, because the dude's got really good boxing, really good, hands and all that good stuff. And a lot of times he can lure people into thinking, oh, this guy's just a boxer. And then all of a sudden he slams a heavy body kick in there, and guys start going, oh, whoops, didn't account for that. And then that opens back up the hands, lets him start back to working those in. We haven't seen a ton of grappling from the guy because we just haven't. There isn't footage of it. I mean, I know the guy's got 12 fights, but there's just not a lot. We've seen him go quickly to a front choke as a means for a takedown defense and have a lot of success with that. He does have one fight on the regional scene that apparently has a lot of grappling, but I haven't been able to find the fight. So there you go. There's that. On the other side, Davey Grant. He's been around forever. We know what Davey Grant's going to bring, but the thing we don't know is how he's going to look here. He's coming back off of I believe a neck surgery. Been away for a bit now. He's getting up there. He's almost 39, so there is that. But he is a good striker, tons of power, good volume, always down to scrap, tough as nails, heck of a leg kick, can fight out of either stance, and he puts together clean combinations. The dude's a good striker. He's a good grappler, too. The dude's got great scrambles, and he's really good with a kind of surprising submission arsenal. The guy can lock something up wherever he needs to, do what he needs to do to get it done on the mat as well as on the feet. Problem is he's almost 39, and at bantamweight, my goodness, that's crazy. I got to go with Taveras just mostly because of the age. Coming back off a neck surgery, about a year away. That's just too much. I got to take Taveras here. It's a good fight, though. Davey Grant's the kind of guy that can give anybody a vet lesson. And if he does in this one, I won't be that surprised. Let me know what you got. Lightweight Miranda Maverick takes on Jamey-lyn Horth. Now, real quick, before we jump into the nuts and bolts, I want to point out a size discrepancy. 5'3" for Maverick, 5'7" for Jamey-lyn Horth. So pretty big difference in the height there. So that's something to take into account. Horth has fought up at 135 before. Maverick is smaller for the division as far as height goes. So that's something that's going to be a very big intangible here. Now, when we look at their last 5 fights, both of them are 4-1, so both have had pretty good runs as of late. For Horth, when we look at her skills, she's a decent striker. Basic combinations. Now, when I put basic up here, a lot of people think that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. She sticks to the basic moves that you want in a combination. You know, she's putting jab, cross, hook. Like, you know what I mean? She's not doing crazy, wild stuff. She sticks to the basics, and they work well. She's got good kicks, good power, things like that. So she's a pretty decent striker overall, just not quite that next level of striker. Decent grappling as well. She's an all-arounder. If I say anything about Jamey-lyn Horth, she's just an all-arounder. Good top pressure. She's really hard to control on the mat. She's very active from her back, but she doesn't have the best takedown defense. So oftentimes she gets taken down, and she has to either work to get back to her feet or try to work for some stuff off of her back. But if she gets on top, her top pressure is pretty good. We're looking at Miranda Maverick now. Now, Maverick, she's a solid grappler in her own right. She's got very good double leg takedowns. They're very powerful, probably because she's built like a brick house. So she'll come in, get that big, powerful double leg, and then she has really good top pressure to go along with it. Say she doesn't get the double leg. That's okay. She'll push up against the cage. From there, we'll start working her takedowns, and she does a good job of getting takedowns there. Her armbar is something that kind of gets slept on. She's got quite a few finishes via armbar, and she is pretty quick with that armbar. Now, in the striking, she's not the fastest with her strikes, but she's pretty good there. Her strikes are very technical, but they're just not super quick, if that makes sense. Good combinations. She has a pretty decent counter overhand, and I think that's because she has the ability to look like she's going for a wrestling shot, and then she can kind of hit you with the overhand when you try to stuff that or go for a knee or an uppercut, something like that, and then she'll counter you with an overhand. She's got a good inside-outside leg kick that she seems to be really developing quite a bit as of late, so that's kind of a newer wrinkle to the game. For me, I just think this is a skill gap, and I think Miranda Maverick has quite a bit more skill in this matchup than Horth, but the size could be a big problem. So I think Maverick's going to be the side. Let me know what you guys have, and I will. Really fun matchup here where Miles Johns take on Felipe Lima. Now, for Felipe Lima, you probably remember his debut. Took it on like 5 days' notice. Came in there and got a huge win. He's now 5-0 in his last 5 fights, 13-1 in the career, tons of momentum. He's taking on Miles Johns, who 3-1 and no contest in his last 5. The dude's 15-2 on the career. Another prospect who has fallen under the radar a bit lately. Came in as a big prospect, but some of the buzz kind of fell off, and I think it's because his style is kind of his style isn't as flashy as someone like Lima. So let's start with Lima. He solid grappler, right? The guy's got a lot of energy on the mat. He's going to take your back, transition there very well, works to advance his position. He's not just chilling. He's very good at sweeps when he gets gets to the bottom because his takedown defense isn't the best. But he's also active off his back with submissions, things like that. So dude's just an all-around really good grappler. But on the feet, he's very good there as well. He's got a good high guard that he uses to kind of come forward and block some shots until he can get into the pocket where he's extremely dangerous. Puts together combinations, and he does work the body very well. He's a complete fighter other than the takedown defense, but like I said, he's good enough off his back and good with sweeps that he can usually make it work for him even if he's taken down. In fact, I mean, with only one loss on the career, it's not like he's really failing in many areas. So on the other side, Miles Johns, only 2 losses on the career, so very similar, right? Dude's a good striker with a ton of power, and he has really good counters. The problem is his volume can lack because of the counter striking. If he's waiting to counter strike, sometimes the volume just isn't there. He was more of a wrestler when he came into the UFC. He's done a bit more striking as of late, but he does still have really good wrestling. He does still have really good top control, good takedowns, things like that. So Miles Johns, if he wants to win this fight, could definitely go to his wrestling and get the takedowns here and just try to control, but it's dangerous. Now, if he stays on the feet, could he try to counter strike a guy that's going to come forward with pressure and just kind of throw hands, do what he needs to do? Yeah, he could do that too. But I think this fight is going to come down to the fact that Felipe Lima is just going to do more. So whether he gets a finish or not, Felipe Lima is going to be the more busy fighter, the more active fighter, and I think that's going to give him the win. So we're taking Felipe Lima here. Let me know what you have in the comments below. And what should be a fun matchup between a couple of skyscrapers in the featherweight division. Sean Woodson takes on Fernando Padilla. Padilla's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 4-0 and a draw for Woodson in his last 5 fights. Now for this one here, it's probably going to be a striking match because for Padilla, even though he's really good at jiu-jitsu and super dangerous off his back, his triangle armbar sequence that he kind of switches between the two, it's great. But the problem is he doesn't have any takedowns. And by he doesn't have any takedowns, like I'm sure he knows how to use them, but he doesn't have any success with them. So there's that. And his takedown defense is poor, which is good for him because he wants to work off his back every now and then. But the problem is I don't think he's going to get that here because Sean Woodson's probably not going to take him down. But he's going to start quick, and he has good striking. And I think that's what you're going to have to see him use in this fight. Good forward pressure, good volume. He's extremely accurate even when he's throwing a high amount of volume. And he can counter strike while moving forward, which is a very big plus. On the other side, he's fighting Sean Woodson, who in the grappling has good takedown defense, which even makes it harder when you don't have the best takedowns for Padilla. He's got them choking arms. We always like to see that. But realistically, he doesn't want to grapple. He wants to strike because this dude is a solid striker. Former heavyweight boxer. He's now a featherweight, which is weird, but he uses his range extremely well, puts together really good combinations, has like super quick jab, and something he does better than most is when he corners his opponents up against the cage, he just unloads on them, and because of his long, lanky frame, he doesn't really let people get out of that range, right? He just gets them stuck there, and they try to move, and he kind of just comes at them from a different angle and keeps them stuck against that corner in the octagon. Now, it's not a big corner. It's not like it's a square, but it makes it hard to get out of there for whatever reason because he's just really good at it. He does have surprising kicks, probably because they're probably surprising because A, typically he's going to be the taller fighter, which he will be here, but not by much. But B, because his legs look like toothpicks, and it's hard to see them coming at you because they're so thin. Just kidding, that's probably not true. But I'm going to take Sean Woodson here. I think he's the better striker in a matchup that's probably going to be between a couple of guys trying to strike each other. So we're going to take Sean Woodson. Let me know what you have. Lightweight, where Drakkar Klose takes on Joel Alvarez. Now, folks, this is going to be a crazy matchup because if you remember, Joel Alvarez seemed to change his game up a bit in his last matchup where he took on Elvis Brenner. And the dude looked way different, night and day. Like, he was good before, but he looked like he'd leveled up. And he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights with 21-3 as the record, which is incredible. Now, he's fighting Drakkar Klose, also 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 15-2 on the career with the draw in there as well. But both of these guys have looked pretty gosh darn good as of recent. When we look at Joel Alvarez, we're going to start with the grappling. He has a strong grappling skill set where he has an immense sub-arsenal. He's extremely aggressive at attacking the chokes and basically just aggressive in general on the mat. His takedown defense is abysmal, which it's probably because he wants to end up on the mat, whether he's on top or bottom. He doesn't care. He will use ground and pound as well, and that's usually to set up a submission, but if you just keep defending the sub, he'll take the TKO. But typically, he's going to try and set up the sub. Now, with the striking, this is where he's leveled up, because the guy was like all right before and kind of just got by being really tall. Like, he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage here. And I don't know exactly on the height, like 5 inches or something like that. It's like a decent amount in height too. But now he seems to be a little bit better just in general, right? This guy was always very aggressive, but he's got a slick jab. His knees are looking pretty good. He's always had decent power, but now he's starting to rip body shots. He looks much better on the feet as opposed to before, and it wasn't like he was just fighting a bum. He fought a very good opponent and looked great. So there is that. For Klose, he's a good striker as well. He's accurate, good volume, got good combinations that he can put together in there. He does get dropped a bit more than you'd like to see as of late, so that could be something for him. But just, it's not a durability concern just yet. Obviously, it hasn't cost him. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Something to think about. But good grappling. His takedown defense is very good, which if he wants to keep this on the feet, he may be able to do that because, short of pulling guard, which obviously isn't great in MMA, Alvarez's takedowns aren't the best. Like, the guy's going to go for the takedowns, but it's not like his takedowns are lights out. He's not a super high-level wrestler, but oftentimes his aggressive pressure on the feet gets guys to take him down, which Klose absolutely could, because Klose has pretty good takedowns, but I don't know that he's going to want to. He does have pretty good submission defense. It's going to be put to the test, and he has decent top control. Realistically, though, it comes down to what happens in the striking. If Joel's getting the advantage in the striking, you got to imagine Klose is going to have to shoot a takedown. If he does, I think Joel wins. If Klose is getting the advantage in the striking, this could be an interesting fight. But ultimately, I think it's going to end up on the mat at some point, and I think Joel Alvarez is the side. So we're taking Joel Alvarez. I think he's probably going to get a submission here, even though that submission defense of Klose has been pretty good so far. I don't know that it's going to hold up. Let me know what you guys think. Johnson takes on Ottman Azaitar in a fight that is on this card. Both of these guys are 3-2. There you go. Ottman Azaitar, good striker, good power, good forward pressure, good volume, good leg kick. But he's kind of toast after the first round. Decent takedown defense initially, but once you take him down, he's kind of held down. The dude basically is going to come forward, throw his offense early, and if it doesn't work out, that's probably it for him. Now, on the other side, Michael Johnson, he's been there, he's done that, but he's ancient. The dude's like 40 years old. He's not quite 40. I think he's still under 40. But he's getting up there, right? He's probably like 36, something like that. But either way, Michael Johnson getting up there. Dude's had a ton of fights. 22-19 is a crazy record to have in the UFC, especially with a guy that has been here this long. Now, I understand not all those fights were in the UFC, but the dude's been here for ages, right? Good striking as well, good volume, good power, but he's got good counters as well, and I think that's going to help him out quite a bit here against Azaitar. Decent wrestling, decent. His takedown defense pretty good, decent takedowns of his own, but the guy gets subbed a lot. I don't think he needs to worry about that here. This is a wild fight because Michael Johnson is by far the better fighter. Like, skill for skill, Michael Johnson is the better fighter here by a pretty good clip. But the problem is the dude's ancient. Like, for a fighter, he's not ancient in like general terms, but when it comes to fighting, the dude's been around for a long time. He's been in a lot of wars. Like, the dude literally has more losses than Azaitar has fights. Anyway, for Johnson, he's the better fighter. He's got really good wins on his record, things like that. But the problem is, like I said, he's old. And can Azaitar just knock him out? Absolutely. So, I'm going to take Michael Johnson. But why don't you do yourself a favor and just take a nice ice-cold root beer out the fridge, kick your feet up on that coffee table, crack that son of a gun open, and just enjoy the fight. Because this is not a fight to be betting on. Pass on this one. I'm taking Michael Johnson. And if he wins, I'm not going to regret that I didn't bet on Michael Johnson. And if he loses, I'm going to say, wow, I dodged that bullet. So you guys wait next. I want to shout out the channel members. You guys are great. That $2.99 that you put forth every month does continue to produce markers, light bulbs, things that keep the studio running. So shout out to you guys and all your cool little emojis down in the comments. I appreciate you guys. Let's break this down. Navajo Stirling takes on Tuco Tokkos. This is weird because, Tokkos has nearly 3 times the experience as Navajo Stirling in MMA. Just shy of that by 1. 3-2 in his last 5 is Tokkos. 5-0 in his last 5. 5-0 in his MMA career is Stirling. However, he does have a bit of a kickboxing background, so he's had some combat sports experience prior to MMA. When we look at Tuco Tokkos, good grappler. That's what he needs to do here because he's fighting a very good striker. We're going to cover that in a minute. But he's a good grappler who advances position well. He's got very good top pressure, and he takes what's given. He doesn't force anything. He doesn't try to do anything silly. He takes what you give him. And on the mat, oftentimes he can force guys to give him whatever he wants because he's really good at setting things up, doing what he needs to do. On the feet, he's got decent striking. He's got pretty good power. I'll give him that. He's going to be outmatched in the striking, though, here, and I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anyone because he's fighting Navajo Stirling, who is a very solid striker. Works the body well, good variety of kicks, accurate, feints to set things up. He controls range super well. Transitions from the tie clinch to range and range to the tie clinch extremely smoothly, right? He stays really safe when he breaks the clinch. When he goes to close in that range, he does so without putting himself in danger. Mixes up his combinations and single shots extremely well. And when he does get to the clinch, his knees are just deadly. Honestly, this is a setup spot for Navajo Stirling. I think Navajo Stirling gets it done. If he ends up on the mat, though, with Tucos, it could be bad. But I think Stirling's going to do well. I think he's going to get it done. We're taking him to get the win, and you can let me know what you think in the comments below. A striker's delight in the bantamweight division here, where Adrian Yanez takes on Daniel Marcos. Now, for Marcos, 4-0-0 contest in his last 5 fights. That no contest, he was cruising. But a little bit of an infraction there, and his opponent said, "Woo, I'm getting my butt kicked. I need to get out of here." So that's what happens. So 4-0-0 contest in his last 5. Keeps him undefeated at 16-0. Could be 17-0 in another timeline if you subscribe to that theory there. For Yanez, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Coming back, after a couple of rough spots, but did pretty well after kind of reversing ship, doing what he needed to do, getting back to the roots, doing what got him to the dance, right? For Yanez, solid striker, pretty much a boxer, right? He's a solid boxer. Now, the guy's going to come forward with combinations. He's going to rip body shots, got really good volume, super fast hands, and decent amount of power. But it's predominantly boxing. It's pretty much all boxing. On the other side, we've got somebody that's going to mix his tools a little bit different, and maybe he isn't quite as good of a boxer as Yanez, but he probably has more in the tool bag. So it's kind of what do you favor here? Because for Daniel Marcos, dude's a solid striker as well. He's got good combinations, good head movement, good counter striking. The leg kicks are something that he does to pretty good success. Works the body well, and the jumping knees when his opponents are in tight, where he'll, they'll be in here like, close range, boxing range, or even closer, and he'll just throw a flying knee out of there. Wild stuff. Good tight defense, but sometimes he is content to move backwards, and that's a problem for him here because Yanez is going to be coming forward. Both these guys have good takedown defense. Neither guy is going to be looking to grapple, in my opinion. We haven't really seen that from them. Neither guy is offensively looking to grapple, so I think we're going to get a striking fight. Now, it's going to be, do I think that the guy who's just better laser focused at what he's really good at, or the guy with more tools but isn't as specialized is going to get the win? And honestly, for me, I think it's the tools. I think Daniel Marcos is going to get this one done. I see him being able to mix his punches and kicks a little bit better, use the leg kicks to slow down the movement of Yanez, use those jumping knees to kind of back off the pressure of Yanez, and maybe do what he needs to do to stay defensively sound and then land his own shot. So I'm going to take Marcos, but I think this is... I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's one of them days, I guess. I'll see you in the next Dustin Jacoby and Vitor Petrino face off in this matchup here. And it's a matchup of veteran versus up-and-comer. But, folks, this is a moment where I'd like to ask you a favor. If you've been enjoying yourself, maybe you've learned a little something in this video, if you could take that little bit of time, scroll on down and click that like button for me, that would be very much appreciated. It'd be a fantastic gesture on your part, and I appreciate the heck out of you for it. Now, let's break down the fight. Dustin Jacoby, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Vitor Petrino, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Now, that right there is a big red flag on one side, but to add to that, Dustin Jacoby is 36, whereas Vitor Petrino is 27, and a 9-year age gap is a pretty big age gap. So those are things that I don't like on the Dustin Jacoby side right out of the gate. We haven't even got to the skills yet. But when we look at Vitor Petrino, good striker, good power, very dangerous in the pocket. But the dude's hands are low, and he is very hittable because of that. Now, he hasn't really shown durability issues whatsoever, but getting hit doesn't usually do well in the eyes of the judges, so take that for what you will. Decent wrestling as well. He can mix in takedowns. It did get him in a lot of trouble when he fought Jacoby's teammate, Anthony Smith, and he got guillotined, which you should not be getting guillotined at this level. You shouldn't be getting guillotined. I stand by saying that. His takedown defense is pretty poor as well. I don't think he has to worry about that here. Jacoby's not shooting takedowns, but he does get up when he is taken down. Now, he's a physical specimen. This dude is a powerhouse. He can use that to his advantage in a lot of matchups, including this one. If he uses that physicality here, I think that's going to help him quite a bit. On the other side, we got Dustin Jacoby, who's the far cleaner, better striker. I don't think that's crazy to say. Probably doesn't have as much power, just raw physical power as Petrino, but everything else in the striking is going to be Dustin Jacoby. Dude's got better volume, got good leg kicks, He's got better combinations, good counter striking ability. He's just overall a solid striker, and he has really good takedown defense, stuffs those takedowns, and goes right back to the striking. He's the better fighter, but he's getting older, and he seems to be on a bit of a decline. Not very long ago, I would have easily taken Dustin Jacoby here. Now I'm going back and forth. I've gone back and forth on this pick a couple of times because Jacoby is the better fighter. But again, like we've seen a few times on this card, Father Time's catching up to some of these guys. And Petrino, as much as he lacks a lot in the skill in some areas, he makes up for it with that physicality and just being younger. I'm going to take Petrino. But ultimately, I'm going to pass on this fight. I'm taking Petrino because I need to make a pick, and that's what you guys have tuned in for. Jacoby's a live underdog, but he's 36, and he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. So not a good showing as of late. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. Exciting flyweight matchup next between a couple of guys who are 4-1 in their last 5 fights. Manel Kape takes on Bruno Silva. In this one here, Bruno Silva, he's a good striker. He's got good forward pressure, plenty of power, but the kicks are absolutely nasty. Something that's kind of good and bad is he spins a bit too frequently for my liking, but it does have success when the spinning attacks land. He has solid jiu-jitsu. Now, he doesn't offensively go for the takedowns as much as you'd want for someone that is as good on the mat as he is, but he will go there when need be. A lot of times he is content to strike with some people, and that's because he's nasty on the feet as well. Dude's got slick transitions on the mat. He's quick to attack with submissions. He's very opportunistic in these exchanges down here, and he does not accept the bottom position. What do I like about that? Well, a jiu-jitsu guy who is not willing to accept bottom is something that's very good for MMA, for jiu-jitsu guys in MMA, because a lot of them are just willing to work off their back. Not Bruno Silva. Does a good job fighting to get on top and then work his submissions and attacking things from on top, which is important. On the other side, for Manel Kape, solid striker who is lightning fast. When this dude is throwing, he's deadly quick. Now, he will feint and set these strikes up. He'll do a great job with all that, but the problem that he has is sometimes he's far too patient, and we just see him not doing much, especially if there's a grappling threat on the other side, which could be here, could be, depends on what Bruno Silva we see. The movement on the feet for Kape is very good. He does seem to, like I said, if the grappling threat's there, it does seem to change his game plan quite a bit. But the Kape that's working his best game, he's feinting, he's moving around, he's setting these strikes up, and then goes and lands big, powerful, quick strikes, quick combinations, things like that on his opponents, and does so pretty frequently, not patiently waiting until it's too late. Decent wrestling, though. He can mix in takedowns of his own, and he can cage push pretty well. And when he does cage push, he does have some pretty good knees that he drives straight through his opponent. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the big underdog here in Bruno Silva. I think Kape has just had too many times where he just doesn't do enough. And Bruno Silva's a killer. And this dude is never out of a fight. So we're going to take Bruno Silva to do more, be more aggressive, and threaten with the takedowns and threaten with the grappling. So Bruno Silva's my pick. Let me know what you have. I'm just going to throw my marker on the ground because whatever. It didn't work. I'll see you guys in the next fight. Featherweights, Cub Swanson takes on Billy Q. This is a really fun fight. And you would look at these names, you're like, man, I'm familiar with both of these guys. And then you're like, man, why are they 2-3 in their last 5? What have I missed? Well, neither guy's really looked the best in their career as of late, but they both still seem to have something to offer. And that's where we find out in this fight who's got more left in the tank. Now, Billy Q, going to be the younger guy, but had a bit of a slump as of late. And for Cub Swanson, dude's got that veteran savvy, but Father Time catches up with all of us. So when we look at these guys in this matchup, Billy Q, good striker, good volume, good combinations, and he's really good at putting his punches and kicks together. But the pacing and the cardio is what makes that striking offense so good. Same thing with his grappling. The dude's got good grappling. It's the ground and pound volume, the scrambles. Sure, he can be taken down, especially because he's coming at you pretty aggressively. But he's really hard to hold down. He just makes guys work. And if you don't get him out of there early, the guy's going to be trying to outpace you for the whole fight, and probably will as the fight gets closer to the end. So with the veteran side of Cub Swanson, this guy's been around for a long time. Dude's been in the UFC for a long time, not just in MMA. He's a very good striker. He's dangerous in the pocket. The guy probably is going to be the harder puncher of the two. Good counters, strikes at odd angles, got good head movement, and he can kick to all levels. And those kicks often come at kind of odd angles as well, not just like the punches. The problem is he's really heavy on his lead leg, and that can cause him some problems. It's actually been causing him some problems in some recent fights. In the grappling department, he's pretty good there too. He's got some good trips and throws. He's got good ground and pound. And he's active from his back, and he'll use a guillotine not to try to get the finish often, but to get back to his feet. Ultimately, in this fight, I think it's competitive, and I think it's really competitive early. But I think as the fight goes on, if Cub Swanson doesn't get the win early, I think Billy Q is going to be the one picking up the pace at the end. And I feel like he wins the third round at a pretty high clip. Now, could Swanson knock him out? Yeah, he could. He definitely could do that. But I don't know that he's going to. And I think Billy Q's going to survive, and I think he's going to probably win 2 out of 3 rounds. Could win all 3, but probably win 2 out of 3 rounds and get himself a decision. We're taking Billy Q here, but this is a doozy of a fight. So might need to grab yourself another root beer, boys. We've reached the main event of the evening. The welterweight division is on display here, where Colby Covington steps in on short notice to take on Joaquin Buckley. Now, for Buckley, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He's looked great ever since moving down to welterweight. I think the fact that he's not just like a foot shorter than everybody has helped him quite a bit. Now, he's taken on Colby Covington, who's 2-3 in his last 5, which might be surprising to you because he's only lost 4 times in his entire career. Well, those are all pretty much recently. So there's that. Now, well, and by recently, I mean in his most recent fights, because the dude doesn't fight very often. But he's taking this one on short notice, which is a surprise to pretty much everybody in the MMA community from what I can tell. So that's interesting. And just a reminder, go ahead and hit that like button for me. I don't want you to forget. Can't let you forget that. Let's break this down. Joaquin Buckley, he's a good striker. He's looked even better as of late. Good forward pressure, good power, works the body well. He's got good kicks and his movement on the feet. It's good, right? He's going to be better in the striking than someone like Colby Covington, because if this is a kickboxing matchup, you take Buckley over Covington all day, every day, because the tools that Buckley has on the feet are going to be far superior to the tools that Colby Covington has on the feet. The inverse is true for the wrestling. Now, Buckley is a decent wrestler. He mixes in takedowns pretty well. He's got good takedown defense, and when he gets on top, he can stay safe. But he's going to want to keep this on the feet. He's going to want to strike in this matchup because his power, his movement, those are the things that are probably, I think the power and the movement are what are going to win it for him on the feet, right? Because he's going to have to stay out of the way of the takedowns with the movement and then land his power shots. That's what he's going to want to do. Now, working the body cool, working the kicks, it might be a bit risky against Covington, but I think he's going to need to get Covington working backwards, land those power shots. Now, for Covington, he's a strong wrestler, but there's a caveat. He didn't do it hardly at all in his last fight with Leon Edwards. Don't know who that guy was. That wasn't the Colby Covington that we know. Okay, so strong wrestler. I'm going to break down his skills, and we're going to address that in a minute. Good takedowns, really good takedowns, variety of them, different options, tons of volume. He can mat return you when you try to get back up. Great in the scramble, solid takedown defense. He can push up against the cage, grind on you there. Pretty good striker as well, but not clean and technical. When I say good striker, it's very, very good for what it's meant to be used for. For him, it's come forward, throw a ton of volume, set up the takedowns. And he does put his punches and kicks together extremely well for somebody who is not a striker. He does a good job with that. He's durable. He's tougher than a $2 steak. The guy can take a punch. We've seen this guy. I think he's been knocked out once, and it was kind of BS. It was kind of one of those stoppages where, like, you probably didn't need to stop that fight, but the ref wanted to give the win to Woodson there. So, that's how it goes. But Covington, at one point, one of the best in the world. I don't know anymore because that Leon Edwards fight, I know broke his foot, things like that. Man, he just didn't look like the 5th round was the only round he looked good. And even then it wasn't like, he didn't look like the Covington that you're used to. Now, could it be the layoffs? Could it be the, getting jumped outside of the, whatever the heck it was by Masvidal? I don't know. If this was before the Edwards fight, if that hadn't happened, I would be taking Covington all day at this price. As an underdog against Buckley, who I think Buckley's pretty good. Covington was one of the best in the division for a long time. Very competitive matchups with top guys, winning against top guys, things like that. But now I don't know. I don't know about Covington. I got to take Buckley. Younger guy, head of steam. I don't know. Something's off with Covington. Maybe he can turn it back here. I'm probably not going to. All of my betting action is probably going to be early on this card. Let's be honest. The last few fights, I'll likely be just watching for entertainment value, and that's probably good because I'll know if I'm going to win or lose on the last card of the year and just be done with it before the card's over, so I can just kick back and enjoy it. So there we go. Now, for those of you who were wondering, who watched the intro part, the bit at the beginning, New Year's resolutions we were talking about. So, before we get to that real quick, make sure Wednesday after this card, we're going to have a live stream. I don't know the time yet. Keep an eye on the channel. You'll see it. Keep an eye on the Twitter or X. You'll see it. We're going to do the live stream, like I said, expert versus casual wrap up, and that's going to be a good time. Next year, early next year, Kendra and I are going to do another one with Mr. and Mrs. K-Pix of Johnny K-Pix channel's fame. We're going to give our predictions together, couple versus couple, experts versus casuals, whatever you want to do. But it's going to be fun. So we're going to do that as well. That's coming up in early January before the cards start because we got a couple of weeks where we don't have any content and we got to make content. Speaking of content, we're talking about New Year's resolutions. I promised you I'd give you my New Year's resolution, and that is to support more content creators and do a better job of that. Now, I would say I already do a pretty decent job of it. I'm often buying the merch, but I'm wearing some content creator merch right now. You've seen me wear it before as well, things like that. But I want to do a better job of it. So that is the goal for 2025. Support more content creators, both monetarily and, obviously by spreading the word. So that is the goal. I hope to be able to accomplish that. But I would also like to read your resolutions in the comments. So I want to see what you guys are up to. I want to be able to help, hold you accountable. Maybe I can remind you partway through the year if I don't get like 1,000 comments on this saying their resolutions, because I don't think I can remember that many. But for many of you, I will. So drop them down in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. I realize this part at the end is a bit long. So if you're still watching, you're one of the real ones, then I appreciate you. Catch you guys down the road.